Optic Gaming, we will see a fudging later. C9 able to clutch up in the end, and what a performance that was. All the way down to the AR battle, and that is going to be it. Congratulations, C9. Inks, 2 COD champs, back to back. There you have it. Team Envious are your 2016 Call of Duty World League champions.
So it is without a doubt that Black Ops 3 has been a rather surprising year for Call of Duty competitively, and just with all of the stories and upsets and underdogs coming through, and it's been a really unpredictable year for Call of Duty, more so than any other year in times past. With all but one event left for Black Ops 3, I'm going to be covering all of the grand finals and highlights and major events out of this year. So to kick off the year, we have our first event, which is the Totinos Invitational. Only 8 teams were invited, being Complexity, FaZe Clan, Luminosity, Optic Gaming, Rise Nation, Team Elevate, Team Envious, and Team Caliber. Now, they played best of 3s all the way up until grand finals, which was a best of 5. Unsurprisingly, Optic Gaming and Rise Nation made it to the grand finals, and this was the first time that they squared off against each other for the Black Ops 3 year. Now, Rise Nation, as opposed to many other teams, had been playing the game a lot for it just being out 2 to 3 weeks. As opposed to many other teams, even Optic Gaming hadn't been practicing as much as they would later on in the year, and that's why Rise Nation really took this event. They grinded the game more than any other team off the start, and they ended up leaving with a total of $20,000. Now, after teams qualified for the Call of Duty World League, or CWL, an event hosted by UMG in South Carolina was one of the first looks at how teams were progressing throughout the season. However, this event was hosted at the height of the Bluetooth controller issues. Players said there was slow turn and random movements their controllers were basically involuntarily making. This left fan favorite teams knocked out of the tournament pretty early on, but again, Rise Nation would take the event in a grand final against the underdog, Luminosity. It was a surprise that Luminosity really made it that far, but they left in second place with $14,000, and Rise Nation in first place would take $28,000. At the end of CWL Season 1, all teams would meet up to play and decide who the best team for that season was. Teams from North America, Europe, and Australia would all crown one winner. Online, Optic Gaming had been stomping any competition in their way, but they were also catching a lot of flack for being unable to win a LAN event, up until this point. It had been Rise showing up on LAN and Optic showing up online. This was Optic Gaming's opportunity to silence the noise and just being good online. For the second time, these two teams would meet up on LAN in a grand final. This time it was a best of 11, and it would go all the way to a Game 7 search and destroy. And that would go all of the way to a round 11. A big play from Karma would end Championship Sunday, with Optic holding the trophy and proving that their ability on LAN was no myth. Optic Gaming would also make up for their past performances by leaving with $66,000. Now, a few of the top North American teams traveled overseas, competing with the Europeans and Australians, and I'm not going to go too much into those tournaments, but I will mention that Optic won ESWC in France and the Crown Invitational in Australia. Before heading back to the States, at MLG Anaheim and California, Season 2 was tougher for the top teams, and teams were starting to hang up there at the few who were doing well during the season. At MLG Anaheim, Team Elevate made it to the grand finals as the underdog to take on Optic. Right out of the gates, Elevate showed that they could hang with the best teams by starting out the series 2-0 in Elevate's favor. However, Optic came back 3 games in a row in this best of 5 and crushed their hopes of a first place finish this year. In turn, Optic would take home $40,000 for this event. As I've said before, Season 2 of the CWL was a lot more close and unpredictable than the first. At the end of Season 2, Optic was left in a virtual tie with Team Envious's new roster at 16-6. However, Envy had one more map win than Optic, making them number 1 going into playoffs. Only one of these two teams would make it into the grand finals, however. The Season 2 grand final would be Envy vs Dream Team, which in my opinion had the biggest improvement going from Season 1 to Season 2. Dream Team still had a mediocre season ending at 11-11, even though they showed up on LAN. And although they put a lot of effort into it, Envious took the best of 11 series 4-1 pretty convincingly, leaving Envious with $66,000 in first place and the Season 2 winners. Next to last, we have MLG Orlando. This was the event before COD XP and honestly one of my favorite events to watch this year. The grand final featured the two giants, Optic Gaming vs Team Envious. Optic, coming from the winners bracket, had some cushion to work with. Envy, coming from the losers bracket, had to beat Optic twice in a best of 5 series to take the event. In the first best of 5, Envy showed that their Season 2 win wasn't for nothing because they took the first best of 5. But Optic came back to win the second, reinstating the Green Wall as a top dog in the Call of Duty scene. Optic also took home $40,000, while Envy took home $24,000 for second place. This is the hardest event to put into words. It was almost nothing that anyone expected. If someone were to say the grand final was going to be between Envy versus Optic, or you could throw FaZe in there, or maybe even Rise, but only one of these teams would end up playing for a ton of money. The COD XP grand final was between Envious and Splice, which is a European team. Splice came out and surprised everyone with their huge run through the tournament, and make no mistake, they deserve full credit for their second place finish. As you know by now, Team Envy would become the 2016 COD XP winners, winning the first best of 5 3-1. Team Envy took home $250,000. As for other fan favorites such as Optic, FaZe, and Rise, they left with disappointment even though they laid everything out on the table. But this only means another year of competitive Call of Duty and Infinite Warfare, and none of these teams have announced any roster changes. As a matter of fact, Scump, the captain of Optic Gaming, confirmed they will not be making any roster changes. Clayster has also posted a post-event video talking about growing from the experience. It doesn't really matter to me what team you're for or who your favorite is. All of these guys, when they win, they deserve the credit when they win. When they lose, they still deserve a pat on the back, because when they're crushed by the fact that they lost, it means they really did go out there and put their heart and soul into it. And they spend hours upon hours every day sacrificing other things that they could be doing to do what they love to do. And that's the important part of this video. It's a year-long video in the making out of just all of these storylines coming together. If you guys did enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe also. I'd extremely appreciate it, and it would help this channel grow. But as for now, I shall see you guys later.